So let's go again. All right, I'm recording. All right, so I'm going to review now the modules and then talk a little bit about today's module. Before jumping into the class, please, this is the Zoom sessions information you have, links to the software that we will use. I will talk about this briefly today. I mentioned LMMS already. This is the link. I think your first task would be, and when I stop talking, you just like go ahead and do this, and then we'll meet, as I said, at 1 o'clock again. So you will have about an hour to start working with the software, installing this, and then, I'll help you out if you're stuck or if you started going through the materials and have questions. So this is the assignment for today. Just go and install LMMS. This is the other one, the Audacity, which is an audio editor, very powerful. If you want to go ahead and install it, I'm sure you'll find use to this anytime, for the class immediately or later if you want to edit any sound. And this is the advanced stuff. We'll have, this is a middleware that actually is used for creating this adaptive music in actual video games. There are a bunch of them, but this is one that I kind of chose. I will refer to this software, which is an experimental music software. We might need to use Soundflower, which is a way to route audio on your computer. This is specifically for Mac. For Windows, there's other software. I'll have to look it up again. I had it last time, but since I'm on the Mac, I kind of don't have it like just on the top of my mind. So this is a utility. Sometimes when you want to route audio on your computer from one application to another one, which might be useful for some of the assignments, you would need to set this up. So this is some links. You might ignore most of them now, but for sure, just go ahead and check out LMMS. All right, so what this course is about. I'll go really briefly through this because I think I try to put everything in writing. So I can just overview the modules for today. The idea of studying adaptive music is really kind of a combination of something that will require music appreciation, so-called game studies, which is, well, how do you understand a game? Is it a play? So the terms of ludology and narratology, the terms that I would like you to remember. And then the whole idea of experiential technology, which does not necessarily refer to games. I mean, I have some examples there of using adaptive music for dance or machine improvisation, stuff that I'm doing, myself developing technology for this. Now, to understand games, if we want to think about game studies, and we are not going to really go deep into the theory of game studies, but since this is about games and about interaction, it kind of helps to understand what might motivate people to play games. So one of the classical references is this work by Roger Calvas called Men Playing Games, where he identified different types of games. So I'm going through this very quickly, but you can kind of check it out, read it a little bit more relaxed way. He actually talks about competitiveness or games of skill. Another one is games of chance. This is kind of like a gambling or any kind of idea that something happens to you just because you're lucky. Vertigo, or some disruption of perception, things that we like to do because they give us kind of a little bit out of our normal body experience. And another one is just role playing, mimicry. And this is a very interesting book that kind of develops these ideas and became a classic now. Why I'm mentioning this? Because I think it kind of helps to understand that once we engage into a dynamic activity like a game, we might have different ways of experiencing it or different motivations. So when we'll talk about music, we'll keep in mind that something like this is part of how music interacts with the game. It can basically help us, or we can even understand music sometimes in these terms. And we'll get back to this relation between ludology and narratology as we actually as we get closer to the end of the class. So given the idea that we are kind of talking about making music as a game or making music as an interactive story, and this whole debate of whether game is a play or a story, you can also ask about, once music becomes interactive, you can ask yourself, well, is music a storytelling? Because classical concerts, you go there and you just sit back and you have this beautiful performance going on, and it starts and there's a middle and then some kind of climax and drama going on and then end, and it tells a story. Maybe it's more abstract, maybe it's less abstract, but once music becomes interactive, there is an element of a game there. So same questions about the game, whether the game is a story. It depends, of course, on the type of the games, but the modern games, the A-rated games, the big productions, are almost like films. They're kind of sort of like a mix, right, between film and then a first-person experience. What draws us into the game? Is this the story, or is this the actual play that happens, or maybe a combination? Now, if you think about music suddenly becoming like a game, what is this the kind of the dynamics of music? The music itself is structured as kind of a storytelling, or the ability to improvise and change it? So for the introduction, I would like you to see and watch, and that will take you a little bit more than the hour we have between me checking out and checking in again, is this interview with Brian Schmidt, where he tells a little bit about his experience and his life story about video games. So please read this and check out this interview. It's really fun story, also from a very personal perspective, but also gives you a timeline and some challenges. Now, since I said that, my goal is kind of to explore the broader aspect of how computers allow us to be creative and allow us to be dynamic. As part of the introduction, I also would like you to go and check out this video about generative art. It has nothing to do with games because they're not really interactive. I mean, there is one of the artists here does talk about game of life and sort of a game-like situation but he's using this to evolve or make graphical creatures evolve, not music. There's another example here of music, which is more like data mapping and not dynamic music, but the concept of generative art. So the generative art itself, what are the goals? How a computer can basically deal with something where the criteria for success is beauty, right? We mostly use computers for specific purposes, right? We communicate, we browse, we I don't know, type things, we even use this to record or edit music. But here you kind of like have an autonomous computer and he has to create art. So I think the concept itself is important and interesting. So so frankly, the introduction part, which has its own quiz, it's actually the biggest quiz. Most of the quizzes are like 3 questions, right? This one has 6 questions. I think it's important because I would like you kind of to take the opportunity and set yourself up in a way that grounds this question of music for video games in a slightly larger perspective. And that's a perspective of what draws us into a game, what we as people enjoy if we play, and what actually makes a game, or what makes it a game or a story, and then the role of computers. So I kind of use these examples in these interviews and ask you to read this and answer some questions, at least, making sure that you are familiar now with these kind of new terms and understand the motivation behind the questions that these artists are asking or things they're trying to solve. I think maybe it's in some sense the most important part of the class, even though it's only just reading material and some videos and a quiz. So I will quickly also overview this, the class 1, because this is today's material. So maybe today's class is kind of a little bit more intensive because I would like you to go through the overview, and these are the materials. And I published here the first assignment. You probably will need some of the techniques from class 2 also to do the assignment, but I just put it here. Actually, I post the assignments on the Monday of every week. So class 1 has an assignment, class 2 doesn't have, class 3 has an assignment, class 4 doesn't have, and class 5, we have, you're watching my version, so you can see things which are not active. There is no quiz review. There's composition 3, okay? So this is class 5 has its own assignment. And then on class 6, there will be this take-home quiz, okay? And pretty much you're done here with your 3 assignments, okay? And then on class 7, which is, so class 1 and 2 is week 1. 1, 2, 3, 4 is week 2. 5, 6 is week 3, okay? So on week 4, so you have 2 weeks, I put here your final project. Again, you can start working on them in your own pace. You can jump to do the final project or read through this final project even. So it will give you kind of the sense of how it's related to the other assignments. You can do this in any pace you want, but that's kind of like the pacing I chose. So here you have a final project, and then we have some more reading materials, and basically your submission will be on week 10. Last 10. So a week later. So you have practically the first 3 weeks, you have assignments and a home take, kind of quiz or assignment, which will be just a short time limited one. That's why I call it midterm quiz, but it's really an assignment of analysis. You'll analyze some music, choose a game and analyze. And then we have practically 2 weeks where you don't have formal assignments. You'll be working on your final project. You'll be still having the reading materials and the quizzes and some discussions, and I'll be there. And then the extra credit is really class 10. It's the Wednesday on week 5. That's where hopefully some of you will be either finished with the projects or very close to being finished with the project. And if you choose to make the presentation there, that's your extra 5 points. And a little survey review here, which gives you another 1.5 credits. So you have a total of 6.5% of the class that could be extra. A little bit less than one of the homework. So, and you need the homework for the final project. So it will not, the extra credit will not allow you to skip an assignment, but if you do not as well on the quiz or anything like that, you have a nice way to also get extra points in this class. Okay, so let me briefly review class 1, but I will quickly stop the recording and take some questions and see if you want to go and